Good morning. Good morning, traders. How are you all doing today? Karibuni sana. Glad you could all join us this fine Wednesday morning. Hope everyone is doing well. So, for those who are new, my name is Mitch Kaniaro, and I'm a trader with Afriforex. I want to welcome you to another Afriforex daily analysis session. Now, during these sessions, we as the Afriforex team, we analyze the markets, we identify what trading opportunities we will be looking at taking for the day, and we do share that information with you. So as usual, we do have the Forex team. So they are here in the back office. So feel free to ask your questions on the chat box. The team will respond to you, and I will try and look to see if I can address any of those questions at the end of this session. So let's jump straight into it. So as usual, we'll start off with our watch list. So starting off with our watch list, you can see the difference between yesterday and today. So here was yesterday's watch list. So yesterday, our focus was looking for selling opportunities on the Swiss franc, the yen, the euro, as well as the British pound. And we're looking to mix and match those pairs with the pairs on the buy side. So that's the Australian dollar, the New Zealand dollar, the US dollar, as well as the Canadian dollar. Now you can see today there has been a change in a number of pairs. So today, our focus is still going to be looking for buying opportunities on the Australian dollar, the New Zealand dollar, as well as the Canadian dollar. But you will notice that the US dollar has moved to the sell side. So that's the main difference today. And also, as you can also see, gold has also moved to the sell side. So now, in terms of fundamentals, as you can see, there was not necessarily that much even earlier today morning during the London session. There's not necessarily much as well, just a few speeches coming in for the Euro pairs. But at least we do have a lot more news coming in during the US market open. So around 4:30, you can see here, we do end up expecting some volatility on the markets. So let's jump into today's pairs, or at least the pairs that we did have yesterday that we're not going to be looking at today. We'll look at a few screenshots, then we will focus on today's pairs. So starting off with the pairs for review, we'll start off here with the US dollar against the Swiss franc. Now, yesterday, our bias here was to look for buying opportunities, and you can see the three areas that I pointed out. Initially, wanted to see whether or not the price can end up giving us a pullback or breaching to the upside. Now, you can see the price was holding within the seller's area during the London session. Just before the US session, it didn't manage to breach to the upside. So this was around 1 o'clock or 1 p.m. or so. And it did manage to go up, although it hasn't necessarily gone that much further. Nothing much really also happened during the US session. Remember, when we mentioned both pairs being on the same side, there's a high probability that the markets are going to range. So unfortunately, there's a pair that's off our watch list for today. Now, the next pair we did have was the US dollar against the Japanese yen. Remember, on this pair, our bias was to look for buying opportunities, and you can see the three areas highlighted. Throughout the Asian session and the London session, nothing much happened. As you can see, the price was still holding within this seller's area. Although we did get a spike coming down, we're hoping to see if this market was able to come all the way down, at least to the blue SNR, because remember, I had pointed out that there were some buyers there. But it seems that it took off from a slightly higher point before breaking to the upside. And you can see during the US session, the price actually didn't do anything. It was mainly during the Asian session. Remember, we're dealing here with the Japanese yen pairs, and all of the yen pairs really did end up showing a lot of weakness. So even though this pair did go up, this is mainly because of the Japanese yen. But the fact that the US dollar is also showing weakness, this is a pair that could potentially give us issues today. And that's the reason why it is off our watch list. Now, the next pair we did have was the euro against the US dollar. Now, in this pair, our bias was to look for selling opportunities, and you can see the three areas that we had pointed out. Initially, the price was so close towards the buyer's area all the way down at the bottom. What we wanted to either see is either a breach to the downside or a pullback. Now, the pullback did come in. We had pointed out certain areas where the market could react from. Because you can see this blue support and resistance area. The price was here during the US session, but the market could not actually go to the downside. You can see it did manage to continue going up higher. Remember this mainly because the US dollar is also showing a lot of weakness. And even though it might come down today, there's a pair that will give us issues. And that's why it is off our watch list. Now, the next pair we did have was the British pound against the US dollar. In similar situation, our bias was to look for selling opportunities. But you can clearly see the US dollar weakness that did come in. You can see the three areas. Wanted to see if we could get a pullback coming in. Pullback did come in, bounced off this particular support and resistance area that we did have, but the sellers were not necessarily that strong, and it wasn't within one of the market opening times. You can see that was around 12 o'clock, around midday. Now, the price didn't manage to come back towards this area. Wanted to see what kind of reaction. The price managed to continue going up throughout the US session. And once it did breach and hold above this area, this pair did fall off our watch list. So you can clearly see as the price was going up, there were no signs of any big boy sellers actually coming in. So this is mainly to do with the US dollar weakness. So unfortunately, this is a pair that's going to be off our watch list for today as well. So before we do focus on today's pairs, we'll end up having a look at a few screenshots that we didn't manage to get. So we'll start off here with Dan Pickett. Dan Pickett, you didn't mind to grab a very nice buying opportunity or multiple buys on the NASDAQ. You can see a buy right there where the buyers are, price going up in your favor. So very well done on that. You are back within an area, or at least a problem area, where areas, at least sellers could end up giving you issues. But I do end up hoping you manage some of your trade or at least move your stop loss slightly higher. But still, very, very good job on this trade, Dan Pickett. And you also did manage to grab a buying opportunity on the Dow Jones. As you can see a buy right there at the bottom. You can see price going up in your favor. And in this situation, your stop loss is already above your entry. So very, very well done with this trade, Dan Pickett. And next, sorry, apologies. And next, you did manage to get the US dollar against the Japanese yen. It seems that you did end up taking that yen weakness. And you did manage to grab this buying opportunity very nicely. And you can see the market did really continue going up higher. So the fact that your take profit is up there, we definitely know it was hit. So very, very well done that trade, Dan Pickett. So also next, we did get Metrine. Metrine did manage to grab multiple buying opportunities on the Dow Jones. We do know you love trading the indices. So very nice buys as the price is going up higher. I'm not seeing where your stop losses are, because by the time that the price is all the way up here, you should have already moved, at least for the bottom trade, your stop losses should be at least at break even or above your entry point. But otherwise, we do know Metrine, we know what you're doing. So very, very well done on this trade. And also, you did manage to grab a trade on the NASDAQ, similar situation, a buy right there at the extreme. Price went up, got a pullback, and did manage to grab multiple other buys. So very, very good job on this trade, Metrine. We know you did the AMP course, and very, very well done. You know, we can see the things we're teaching you, you are taking into effect. So very, very good job on that. So also next, we did get Peter. Peter, you did manage to grab a buying opportunity. I'm not too sure on what pair this is. So next time, oh, sorry, apologies. The British pound against the Canadian dollar. Did manage to grab a very nice buying opportunity. The price going up in your favor. Very, very good placement of your stop loss. You can see the market is starting to go up higher. And this is where the buyers are, and your stop loss is below that entry. So very, very well done on that trade, Peter. We also did manage to grab a buying opportunity here on the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. Very nice buy, very good placement of your stop loss. It is already a risk-free trade. Your take profit definitely must have been hit, because we have seen the yen pairs really did end up showing a lot of weakness. So very, very good job on these trades, Peter. Keep up the great work that you're doing. So shout out to all of you who managed to send in screenshots. We really do appreciate it. Hope you are learning from these screenshots as well. So even if you've not necessarily sent, I hope you are seeing what you can do to apply that to your trading. But remember, it's much better to learn from your trades. So it doesn't need to be a good or bad trade. Just send any trade that you take, and you will end up learning from that. So remember, if you do manage to take any setups, feel free to send them into us. Our contact details are right there in the chat box. So let's focus on today's pairs. So we'll start off with the Australian dollar pairs. We'll mix and match them with the pairs on the sell side, move on to the New Zealand dollar, then the Canadian dollar, before we have a look at the indices, as well as gold and silver. So let's start off here with the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. Now, yesterday, we did end up having this currency pair, and our bias here, sorry, the bias here was to look for buying opportunities. You can see the areas that we had pointed out. Initially, we did end up having some sort of support and resistance area right here. As you can see, based on the fact that this was an area where the sellers were, did mention that if we are able to get the price breaching and holding above, as you can see, even based on the illustration, we could potentially look for a buying opportunity. And you can see that worked out quite well, although this one ended up happening just an hour before the US market opened at around 3 p.m. But we can clearly see the market did end up giving us a small pullback and a hold above. And around 4:30, it did manage to continue going to the upside. So today, the bias here is still going to be looking for buying opportunities. As you can see, this market has really gone through the upside. Right now, we're within an area where the sellers, and you can see the way the sellers are coming down after the probe. So for now, we do not necessarily want to jump in on the buys just yet. The main thing we want to see is a pullback coming in, which it does seem to be starting. So let's wait to see if we can end up getting this price coming down lower, potentially within this support and resistance area. We do see some sort of probe or price action signal, or the market is there within one of the market opening times. We could potentially end up looking for a very nice trading opportunity within this support and resistance area. So wait to see what ends up happening, but be aware that even though the price it doesn't react within this area, and we have the red scenario here, you can see that the market could potentially bounce off the same area that we did end up having yesterday, where it took off. So be aware that these are the areas that it could end up reacting from. Remember, as long as we're holding above the red SNR, the price is still for a buy. So meaning the price can come all the way down here and we will still be looking for a buying opportunity. Only once it reaches and falls below the red SNR will this pair fall off our workplace. So right now we'll wait to see where the price is going to pull back to. Remember, we always say buy with buyers and sell with sellers. And the reason why I pointed out these areas, you can see this is an area where buyers reacted from. You can see another area where buyers reacted from and the main area. So that's the reason why as the price is pulling back, you want to see what kind of reaction you will find within those areas. If you see some aggressive buyers coming in, then you could potentially find some nice trading opportunities there. So I hope that's clear on the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc as we move on to the next Australian dollar pair, which is the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. So can clearly see this one, we're looking for buying opportunities and can see the three areas that I had pointed out. Prices really did end up taking off today during the Asian session. Remember, this is the Japanese yen pairs, and we did see it on the US dollar against the yen. So yesterday, as our bias was to look for buying opportunities, had pointed out we were within an area where the sellers that you need to watch out for this area right here. And you can't even see the illustration that had pointed out that if we are able to get the price breaching and holding above such an area, we could potentially look for buying opportunities. And you can see that's exactly what happened. We're holding within this area. We got a small breach, although this was at 3, but you can see the next breach that ended up happening. Once the price did reach the upside, that was around 530. So we could have ended up actually looking for a buying opportunity then. And you can clearly see how high the market has actually gone. So today the bias is still to look for buying opportunities. But now the main thing we want to always see is a pullback. Right now the price is so close within that seller's area, not best for us to look for any buying opportunities just yet. So the main thing we'll want to see is potentially some sort of pullback. Remember, the pullback can either come back within this support and resistance area, or it can come back down all the way to the red SNR. But the main thing we want to see is what kind of slowdown are we going to get before we're able to look for the buy. Now, if the buyers decide just to take off, because there is still also that possibility. Don't necessarily only look at the fact that if it didn't give you a pullback, there is no trade. If the price decides to actually continue going to the upside and it does end up holding above, then we might also be able to find another buying opportunity within that area. So hope that's clear on the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen as we move on to the next Australian dollar pair. So right here, we have the euro against the Australian dollar. Now, yesterday, our bias was to look for selling opportunities. It is still the same situation today, but it seems most of the euro pairs were on the pullback as well. As you can see, based on the 3 areas that we had pointed out, initially the price was within this bias area. We look at the price giving us a pullback, and it was within this area. Although if you do look at the time, that was around 3 o'clock. So the price did end up continue holding. Can't even see today how much it has struggled within this particular area. So overall, we will still be looking for these selling opportunities. It seems that the price is still going to the upside slightly. So wait to see what kind of reaction we end up getting. Remember, the main thing we want to see is aggressive sellers. Now, it did look as if the Asian session did end up coming in with some aggressive sellers, but the fact that the price has gone up, there's no trading opportunity just yet. So one of two things could happen. You could easily find the market maybe coming back for a better price before we are able to find those selling opportunities. Or you could easily find that what's happening right now is a probe. So if the price ends up coming down again, you see aggressive sellers, and the price is actually able to hold below, and it lines up, remember, with the market opening time, 10, 11, 4, and 5:30, then you could potentially find some very nice trading opportunities here on the euro against the Australian dollar. So we'll wait to see what ends up happening as we move on to the next Australian dollar pair we do have. Right here is the British pound against the Australian dollar. Similar situation with the euro against the Australian dollar. Our bias here was to look for selling opportunities yesterday, and it's still the same situation today. Although you can see yesterday, and the reason why we keep pointing out, wait for the price to actually hold. You can see how aggressive the sellers came in yesterday during the Frankfurt market open. So initially, we wanted to see if we could end up getting the price holding below for us to look for a sell. You can even see based on the illustration that I had put here, where once the price broke to the downside, you need confirmation the price is holding below. But you can see in this situation, when the price came down, it went straight back up and was actually holding to the upside, meaning this was just a huge probe, meaning this level was actually not broken. And that's the reason why we always tell you, don't chase the market, wait for a pullback, because that will make you sure that you avoid certain losses. Now you can see the price actually was continuing to be on the pullback. Price managed to get towards some sort of seller's area. We've identified multiple sellers area, and I think I also pointed out this area yesterday. But the fact that we are still on the pullback, we wait to see what kind of reaction we do end up getting. The main thing we want to see is aggressive sellers coming in. So we'll focus on these 3 areas, look for the potential sells. Even though right now we're within an area where there could potentially be sellers, we wait to see what ends up happening. These sellers are not good enough. chances are we could end up either still coming back to the main scenario right there at the top before we're able to look for those selling opportunities. Or alternatively, if we are able to get the price breaching and remember holding to the downside, then we should be able to also continue looking for selling opportunities on the British pound against the Australian dollar. So hope that is clear. Ideally, it is on the pullback. The main thing we are waiting to see is big boy sellers. So we move on to the next Australian dollar pair, which is the Australian dollar against the US dollar. Now, these are brand new entrants on our watch list, and our bias here is going to be looking for buying opportunities. So I've identified these three areas where we could potentially look for buys. You will notice right now the market has probed this seller's area right there quite aggressively. Remember, when the market probes, there's a high probability that's when the pullback could be starting. So we could be waiting to see if we could get the price coming back down within this main buyer's area before we're able to look for those buying opportunities. But just take note of certain areas where buyers could react from. You can see there's also some sort of small scenario here where the market has probed as well. So just because we have this level right here, that doesn't mean it might not react within this scenario. The main thing to wait for is, or watch out for the timings, come to the charts just before the market open, at least 30 minutes before, identify whether or not you're within areas of interest and see what kind of reaction ends up happening as the markets do end up opening. But overall, definitely we will still be looking for buying opportunities here. And remember, if the price does able to go to the upside and hold above, then we should be able to also continue looking for buying opportunities if that does end up happening. So I hope the game plan is clear on what we're looking at doing on the Australian dollar pairs, because you can see we've mixed and matched the Australian dollar pair with all the pairs on the sell side. So right now we're going to move on to the New Zealand dollar, then look at the Canadian dollar pairs as well. So starting off with the New Zealand dollar pairs, we have the New Zealand dollar against Swiss franc. Yesterday here, our bias was to look for buying opportunities. So if I do zoom out slightly, you can see the three areas that I had pointed out. But had mentioned that we were within some sort of range, bouncing between these levels. And remember what I mentioned, if we do get the price breaching and holding above the range, that does end up giving you a very nice trading opportunity. So you can see in this situation, sellers didn't really react during the London session, but once the price broke to the upside, you can see the price was holding above. We do look at the time, that was at exactly 4 o'clock. So this one worked out perfectly, managing to continue going to the upside. So today, the bias here is still going to be looking for buying opportunities. So we'll focus on these three areas to look for the buys since we've adjusted them slightly. So right now, you can clearly see what kind of reaction we've gotten within the seller's area right there at the top. And we do seem to be starting to come to the downside, at least giving us some sort of pullback. So let's wait to see how far the market can go to. We have a support and resistance area here where we could end up seeing the market reacting from. We have the main SNR all the way down here at the bottom, but be aware that we also have a small bias area down here. So don't be surprised that you find the market spiking, bouncing all the way that area, then probably coming back in and holding above. If you do see that, you definitely know the buyers who are interested in that price. So if you're looking for any trade within that particular area, you are at least a lot safer. And especially if you see the buyers reacting there, you at least have a good area of where you should be able to put your stop loss. So we'll wait to see what ends up happening. This one does seem to be on the pullback phase. So moving on to the next pair we do have, which is the New Zealand dollar against the Japanese yen. I think most of you can see how much the yen pairs moved, especially if they really did move quite a bit of pips, especially if you're just even counting today morning. You can see that's already over 90 pips on the New Zealand dollar against the yen. But yesterday, the bias here was to look for buying opportunities, and it is still today. The areas we have highlighted have been adjusted slightly, but you can clearly see when we did end up having this market early in the morning, I had pointed out this blue support and resistance area right here. Because remember, I had pointed out that the fact that these sellers seem to have been pushing down, and these are the sellers you need to watch out for. You can even see based on the illustration I pointed out, if the price is able to break and hold above this area, there could be a very nice buying opportunity available. And you can see that's exactly what it did, especially lining up with the market opening time. So in this case, it's during the London market open, although it did end up starting to move around 2 p.m. So the market time didn't really affect it as much yesterday. Mainly, it seems during the Asian session, that's when the market really did go to the upside. So today, the bias definitely still going to be looking for buying opportunities. But as you can clearly see, we're so close within the seller's area. We don't want to start chasing buying opportunities just yet. The main thing we want is the price to come back to us. So we have identified these three areas where these are the best places to look for the buying opportunities. So the main thing we need is the pullbacks coming in, seeing what kind of reaction comes in within this area. We need to see a slowdown of the sellers and aggressive buyers coming in for us to look for those potential buys. But be aware the price can still come back down all the way to this red support and resistance area. Right now, it's very obvious to everyone that it's a buy. So it does most of the time when you see something like this, it does end up trying to come and stop people out outside, more people to look for those sells before actually going to the buy side. So remember, would end up finding a buying opportunity either within this area or this area. But the fact that you're seeing the yen pairs do look pretty much similar, you can be able to use that correlation to determine whether or not you can be able to jump in on one trade or another. So I hope that is clear on the New Zealand dollar against the yen. So moving on to the next New Zealand dollar pair. Right here, we have the euro against the New Zealand dollar. Now, yesterday, we wanted to look for selling opportunities, but you can clearly see the bias was within this buyer's area. So we wanted to see whether or not we could end up getting a pullback. Pullback came in, price never held below. It actually came back and held above. So at that point in time, no trading opportunity, especially if you look at the time, that is around 5:30. So the US big boys decided to actually continue taking it to the upside. But you can clearly see the Asian big boys today have decided to move it down lower. Now, I have adjusted the top area slightly, especially when we end up going up to a higher time frame. We have identified this is a major support and resistance area that has been tested. So it seems that that's the reason why the price has come back within such an area. And you can see that kind of reaction. The sellers are definitely pushing down quite aggressive. The only thing that I'm not happy about is the way the buyers are coming in. So in this situation, we will still be looking for selling opportunities. Well, within a very nice area for a potential sell. So we'll wait to see what ends up happening within this particular area. Remember, if you are going to look for a selling opportunity here, I think the best place to have the stop loss is all the way at the top. But remember, if the price does end up reaching this area to the upside and it holds above, this pair will fall off our watch list. So right now, it is within a very interesting area. You can probably watch out for this one. Remember, we don't necessarily have that much euro news during the London session, but there does still seem to be some sort of possibility. So for those of you who have done the AMP course or one of our courses, should be able to read the story here. And if we're able to find the market actually giving us some slowdown or signs of big boy sellers, then we could potentially end up finding a very nice selling opportunity. Sorry, a nice selling opportunity within this particular area. Stop loss would be within that area, around 20 pips or so. So at least even if it does get to the first problem area, at least that does give you a risk reward of 1:2.4. If it does manage to go down lower, that does give you a much, much better risk to reward. But we'll wait to see what ends up happening on this pair. So moving on to the next New Zealand dollar pair, we have the British pound against the New Zealand dollar. They're looking pretty similar with the euro against the New Zealand dollar. The fact that yesterday we were looking for sells, but the market didn't have to continue giving us a pullback. You can see the way the price came to the downside. Wanted to see the price holding below, but it was just a huge probe, so no trading opportunity. The reason why we keep on mentioning probes, you can see once probes do end up happening, similar situation to what happens here. You can clearly see how much the market ends up going to the upside. So in such situations, that's the reason why you always see us pointing out, seeing a probe or price action signal that does end up giving you a lot more confidence. So yesterday, the pullback continued happening. We reacted within this main seller's area. You can clearly see during the Asian session, some sort of reaction. But right now, we're back within that particular area. So it would be very interesting to see what ends up happening here on this pair. So it's a similar situation with the euro against the New Zealand dollar. The fact that we're back in the main seller's area, we want to see what ends up happening here. Remember, if we do end up getting some sort of probe where the price looks as if it's going to the upside, it stops all those people out because everyone's stop loss is there and you see aggressive sellers coming in and the price falls below, then we should be able to find a very nice selling opportunity here. But it would be interesting to see what ends up happening. Because remember, if the price breaches and holds above this red SNR, this pair will fall off our watch list. So moving on to the next and last New Zealand dollar pair we do have. Right here, we have the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar, brand new entry in our watch list. Now, yesterday, the bias, or at least today, bias here is going to be looking for buying opportunities. You do realize the market seems to be in some sort of range, bouncing between these two levels. And if that's the case and we're looking for buys and the market is ranging, I think it should be pretty clear on where you should be looking for your buying opportunities, which should be at the bottom of this range. So let's wait to see what ends up happening. If we can end up getting this pullback coming in, maybe giving us some sort of probe or price action signal, because probes end up moving the market quite a bit. You can see the market probed here. Even here, the fact that the price managed to go to the upside, or at least it looked as if it was breaking this area to the upside, but when it came back in, it showed confirmation that it was holding below. That is where the trades are best taken. So in such a situation, that's exactly what we'll be looking to see. If the market does give us a probe, we will be looking for our buying opportunity within such an area. Now, if the price is able to break this area to the upside and holds above, you can clearly see we have attempted to do that, but if the market is able to actually reach and remember, if it holds to the upside, that will actually give you a much, very good buying opportunity on the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. So wait to see what ends up happening. Right now, it's potentially the pullback. Let's wait to see what kind of reaction we do end up getting within this buyer's area before we're able to look for those buying opportunities. So I hope that's clear on all the Australian dollar and the New Zealand dollar pairs. So right now, we're going to move on to the Canadian dollar pairs before we do have a look at the indices as well as gold and silver. So starting off with the Canadian dollar pairs, we'll start off here with the Canadian dollar against Swiss franc. Seems the Swiss franc also did end up showing quite a bit of weakness yesterday, because you can see the three areas that we had pointed out looking for those buying opportunities. But the price seemed to have been holding within some sort of small SNR right here, where the market did manage to go to the upside. But remember, if you didn't miss that trade, because remember in this situation, you wanted either a pullback or a breach and a hold. So you can see it did end up doing the latter, where the market did manage to breach and hold above. If you do look at the timings, that was around 4 o'clock during the US market open. That did give you a lot more confluence. And you can see the price did manage to continue going up during the US session. So today, the bias here is still going to be looking for buying opportunities. But if we realize we're so close within the seller's area, the main thing we need is a pullback to actually come in. So we'll be focusing on these three main areas to look for these buys. So wait to see what kind of pullback comes in within this support and resistance area. We do see some sort of global price action signal here. We could potentially look for a buying opportunity. But remember, we keep on mentioning buy with buyers and sell with sellers. So even though we have identified these three areas, the fact is that sometimes the market does give you a lot more areas that it could end up reacting from. So you can even see the fact that there was a support and resistance area here yesterday where the market did manage to take off from. So be aware that the price might still either come back towards this area. So watch out for such a reaction either from such an area here, or you can also see there are some small buyers who did manage to push to the upside. So it might not necessarily get all the way here, could end up also reacting within such an area. But just take note of the market opening times or set alerts within such areas. So when the market does get to such a location, you can be able to come to the charts and look at it. But remember, if the price is able to continue going to the upside, because there's also the possibility that the price, or at least these sellers, might not be interested. And if the buyers decide to continue going up and the price falls above, then at that point in time, we should be able to continue going for these buying opportunities on the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. So I hope the game plan is clear on the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. So now moving on to the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. I think most of you can see how much the yen pairs move. I think even just the move from yesterday, it's over 170 pips. So it was really quite a big move. So you can clearly see the illustrations that I had pointed out. So I'll just adjust this slightly and move it to the left so we can see what happened yesterday. So you can see, based on what our idea was, we were within this middle area. We needed either the price to give us a pullback or a breach and a hold to the upside. And you can see it did something similar with the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. So it seems to have something to do with the Canadian dollar pairs, where the market did breach to the upside and it was holding above during the US session. And you can clearly see the market did continue going to the upside. But there was, I guess, a similar situation also during the Asian session, because once the price breached and held above, the market opening time for the Asian session was there, and you can see the price did manage to continue going to the upside. So today, the bias is still going to be looking for buying opportunities on this currency pair. But if you realize we're so close within the seller's area, I think for most of the yen pairs, so we can be able to look at all of them. If you start seeing one of them pulling back, then you definitely know all of them are going to be pulling back. And if you do see one of them breaking this, or at least the area through the upside right here, then chances are most of them will also be doing the same thing, and we could be able to end up potentially finding a trading opportunity if you do find the price actually holding through the upside and it lines up in this correlation with the other yen pairs as well. So wait to see what ends up happening here. Nothing much for us in this situation. We'll just set alerts, wait for these pullbacks or a breach to the upside. Now, moving on to the next Canadian dollar pair, here we have the euro against Canadian dollar. Remember, the euro pairs were on the pullback phase, and you can clearly see the three areas that I had pointed out. Now, yesterday, the price did give us a pullback. It came back within this seller's area and did end up attempting to come down during the US market open at around 4 o'clock. But the price could not really go that much lower. It seems like it found some sort of small support and resistance area. Do note the time that was around 5:30 or so, just about the New York Stock Exchange open. And the price does seem to have breached and it does seem to be holding above such an area. But one thing we have realized based on trading quite a bit is that we have identified certain things like this, where you find that the market probably needs a better price before it's able to actually move. Now, remember, I had pointed out that the day before, we did see the move to the downside coming in. We got a pullback within such an area. and the price attempted to come down, but we were not able to make a new low, meaning there's a high probability we might need a better price than this. So the fact that the price is holding, seems to be holding within such an area, well, most of the time we realize that this is just there to incite people to actually start looking for buys. The price is meant to hold above here. Technically, it should have already gone. So in most of the times you find the market does something like this, it incites many people to actually start looking for buys. And you could find the price actually coming back down, holding below, and that's when you could end up finding your selling opportunity coming in. So in this situation, the levels will pretty much be the same, but we'll be waiting to see if we could potentially end up getting this price coming in. So if we do see aggressive sellers coming in and the price does hold to the downside, then we should be able to find a very nice selling opportunity here on the euro against Canadian dollar. So moving on to the next Canadian dollar pair we do have, this is a British pound against Canadian dollar. It seems most of the British pound and the euro pairs were on the pullback. Can see yesterday a similar situation at 10 o'clock during the Frankfurt market open. We did see the sellers attempting to come down, but the fact that price was back within the buyer's area gave us a nice probe at 11 o'clock during the London market open. Can see the pullback did continue coming in. Wanted to see what kind of reaction happened within here, but once the price broke this area to the upside and held above, can see the price breached and was holding to the upside. Ideally, there was no trading opportunity just yet. But we are still in line based on the fact that the levels are still being respected. So overall, we will still be looking for selling opportunities because it does seem that the pullback is what's been coming in. And the one thing we have identified is the fact that if you look at how the buyers have been pushing through the upside, especially how they started, you can be able to start telling the strength of a particular pair. So when you see the first move to the upside, it was quite strong going up. The next push was also strong, but not necessarily as strong as the first one. But now look at how it's pushing to the upside. The buyers do seem to be struggling quite a bit. So that's the first thing that we want to see. Remember, a struggling buyer. But the next thing we need, maybe the buyer might attempt to come up here. Then if we do see aggressive sellers coming in, then we should be able to find those selling opportunities. So right now, the only thing that we're missing is the aggressive sellers coming in. If we're able to see that, then we definitely know the sellers are back and we could potentially now look for trading opportunities then. So moving on to the next and last Canadian dollar pair we do have. Right here, we have the US dollar against Canadian dollar. Now, these are brand new entry on our watch list because remember, both the US dollar and the Canadian dollar, for a lot of times, they've been on the same side. And you can clearly see the fact when the pairs are on the same side, they do tend to range quite a bit due to the fact that this market has been bouncing between these two levels quite a bit. Remember, with ranges, you don't be surprised to find huge probes such as this. This is not, that's usually quite normal on trend or at least ranging markets. That's why even though we say buy within the buyer's area, that's the reason why we always point out probes to end up giving you some very nice confluence on your trading opportunities. So we'll be focusing on the three areas right here on the US dollar against Canadian dollar. The fact that the price is back within the buyer's area, there's nothing much for us to do. Remember, if we are looking for our selling opportunities, we do need to look for ourselves at the top of the range, potentially look for those selling opportunities to come down lower. But remember, overall, we will still be looking for selling opportunities as long as we're holding below this red SNR right there. So I know I've zoomed out quite a bit. It's mainly because the markets did end up moving quite a bit, or at least they were quite wide on the day before. So these are basically the levels you can be able to look at. Ideally, you can be able to pause the video and check out the levels as well. So in this situation, we wait to see what ends up happening. But remember, there's also the possibility if the price breaks and holds below, then we should be able to continue looking for selling opportunities as well. So hope that's clear on all the currency pairs. As you can see, we've mixed and matched all the pairs on the buy side with the pairs on the sell side. So right now, we're going to have a look at the indices, then move on to gold and silver. So we'll start off with the NASDAQ, the NAS 100. Now, yesterday, our bias here was to look for buying opportunities, and you can see the three areas that I had pointed out. Remember, I didn't mention that we did have some sort of support and resistance area here where the market could react from. But you can see the market didn't manage to come back down, give us a pullback. Instead of holding within this area, because initially was, we managed to get all the way back down to the main buyer's area. If you do note the time, but it was just before 5:30, or just around the New York Stock Exchange open, where the market did push to the upside. Now, if you didn't miss that trade, you can see the price still did give us a pullback back within that SNR because it seems that this level was just probed. The market never actually held below. And remember, we keep on pointing out that the market's probe, there's a high probability to come back to that area before taking off. So overall, the bias here is still going to be looking for these buying opportunities. The levels are pretty much the same, looking for these buys. So we to see what ends up happening. Either the market will end up giving us a pullback, because you can see the buyers did come in aggressive. The sellers don't necessarily look like they're doing much. So there's a possibility the price might spike to the downside, but even just bounce off this area before going to the upside. But if we do get the price breaching and holding above, then we should be able to continue looking for buying opportunities there. So it's either going to pull back down before it goes up higher, or it's going to go up higher first. It's able to break and hold above there, then we should be good to go to continue with those buying opportunities on the NAS 100. So hope the game plan is clear, pretty clear cut in terms of the game plan of what we're looking to do as we move on to the next pair, which is the Dow Jones or the US 30. Now, this pair, our bias yesterday was to look for selling opportunities. It is still the same situation today. You can see we're still focusing on the same areas that we did end up having. Remember, I had pointed out that yesterday, or at least the day before, the fact that, yes, the price did end up coming down, we got a pullback. The market attempted to come down. We were not able to come down lower. So this price was probably not necessarily good enough. And it's no surprise that the price has attempted to go up slightly higher. And when it does, it definitely incited many people to now start looking for buys, which is a good sign for us, because remember, in order for us to sell, we need buyers. So we'll pretty much be focusing on the same areas that we did have. But the main thing we'll be watching out for is when the aggressive sellers are potentially going to come back in. So it won't be surprising if we do end up maybe finding the market coming down lower. And if it does hold below within that area, we should be able to look for selling opportunities. But be aware, if this price, so we don't necessarily see any aggressive sellers yet, because we haven't seen them just yet, there's still the possibility the price can come back all the way to the main seller's area, and it will still be for a sell. But remember, here we're purely technical. So if the price breaks and holds above the red SNR, then at that point in time, we will switch our bias and we will start looking for buying opportunities then. So hope that is clear. Please we'll wait to see what ends up happening, what kind of reaction. But remember, this pair is mainly active during the US session. So chances are that's when the market will actually end up moving. So moving on to the next. So we have silver and gold. So we'll start off here with silver. Now you can see the three areas, the three highlighted areas that I had pointed out, and where the price was yesterday, back within this area right here. Wanted to see whether or not we're going to get the price reaching and holding above or getting a pullback. Now it seems that the pullback is what came in, and now can clearly see the reason why we always tell you wait for some sort of probe or price action signal, or wait for the price to actually hold below a level before it confirms that that a level has actually been broken. Because you can see around 3:30 or so, 4 o'clock, the price was all the way down here. And so it's the US big boys that took this price to the upside. This was just to stop a lot of people out. And the fact that this was just a huge probe, then chances are that the market could still react within these particular areas. So that being the case, remember when probes end up happening, there's a high probability that the market will maybe pull back towards this particular area here where it was tested before going to the upside. Now, if we do end up seeing that, or if we miss that, and we find the price going to the upside, can end up waiting for the price to hold above for us to continue looking for those buying opportunities. But be aware, we do have the main sellers area at the top right here, but we also have some sellers area right here. Because you can see these are some sellers who did push this price down lower. So you do need to watch out for them in terms of some sort of trade management. But ideally, you could end up considering like a take profit 1 and a take profit 2 if you do manage to grab a buying opportunity at the top. So wait to see what ends up happening. But remember, if the price breaks and holds below this area, the red SNR, then at that point in time, we will actually start looking for selling opportunities then. So hope that is clear in the game plan of silver. As we move on to the last pair that we do have, which is gold. Now on gold, the bias has changed, or at least today, or let me say right now, the bias has changed for us to look for selling opportunities. As you can see, the three areas yesterday that we had pointed out. Now, initially, we wanted to see what kind of pullback was going to come in within this particular area for us to look for buying opportunities. Nothing happened there because the price came below and was actually holding below that area. So at that point in time, we wanted to see what kind of reaction would happen within our red SNR, which was within this area. Initially, it did end up giving us a probe where it came back in and was holding to the upside. So at that point in time, it wasn't breached. But you can see today during the Asian session, today is the first time the price has breached and held below that area. So overall, we will be looking for selling opportunities for now on gold. Now, the levels are slightly smaller, but I will end up going to a higher time frame to be able to show you what exactly is happening. So overall, we will be looking for selling opportunities as long as we're holding below the red SNR. Now, one thing we have identified, because remember, we mainly trade the 1 hour and the 15-minute, but when we do end up going to a higher time frame, you will realize that this could potentially just be a pullback, where this market did end up pushing to the upside from these buyers going all the way up here. And you can see right now we're back within this support and resistance area right there. So you can see there's an SNR area here, or at least an area of resistance that seems to have become an area of support. So that's being the case, there's a possibility that the price might end up going to the upside, or at least going up. But in order for us to confirm that, in order for the buy to really be there, we have to break above this red SNR. So it's still in line. So for right now, in the short term, we're definitely still looking for sells. But if you do find the price breaking this area to the upside, there's a high probability if the price pulls back to that area, we could be able to continue looking for those buying opportunities. But for right now, since this is on a pullback phase, we don't know whether or not this support and resistance area is going to hold, or the price can still even come back down all the way till here. And that's the reason why for now we're looking for sells as long as we're holding within these zones. Ideally, these are concepts we teach within the masterclass course, a topic called zones, which will give you a clear idea of where the big boys are, what the direction of the market is at that time. So right now, since we're within a seller zone, we wait to see what ends up happening. If price breaches and hold above, then at that point in time, we will start looking for buys. And we know that these main buyers that started to push to the upside are the ones who are going to continue pushing up. So we'll wait to see what ends up happening then. So I hope that is clear on all the currency pairs. As you can see, we'll mix and match all the pairs on the buy side with the pairs on the sell side, including the indices. In terms of questions, I'm not seeing any, which is okay. I hope everything is clear. Now, one thing to take note of, remember I had pointed out fundamentals, there's nothing much happening during the London session. You can see we do have 2 euro news pieces of fundamentals that are coming out, but we can clearly see their speeches. So chances of them really affecting the market, they could end up affecting it, but not necessarily changing the direction. But we can clearly see, at least during the US session, we do have a lot of news coming out, some CPIs, of course CPIs as well, some crude oil news. So we do end up expecting at least the US session will be a lot more active. So I guess that's it from me and from us. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today. Really do appreciate it. Hope you guys have had a great session. And I do end up hoping if you are interested in more education, you can feel free to reach out to us. We'll be there to support you. And don't forget to like and subscribe. It does end up helping out the video. And if you have any other trader friends who are struggling, or at least you know the one main thing with trading, or at least the key parts are direction, timing, then money management. If you don't know the direction, then you could end up getting lost. So that's the first thing you always need to know. And that's what we end up trying to come and at least show you the direction, the timing, with the areas. Now it comes down to the money management, the reason why we tell you move your stop loss. So we do end up trying to give you a whole package. So we really do appreciate your time for being here. So once again, thank you guys so much. Hope you have an amazing trading day. God bless and see you tomorrow. Happy trading and bye for now. Cheers.